What's going on, everyone? So, Scream 6, we saw the return of Kirby Reed. Now, however you feel about Kirby, I know people seem kind of split on it, right? It was cool to have her back in the Scream franchise, especially Hayden Panettiere. It's like, oh, hey, glad to have you back. But I just felt like her role in Scream 6 was a little disappointing. Um, you know, Me personally, I wasn't huge on just kind of the role that she had. The FBI agent thing kind of really didn't make sense. I don't know. I just felt like the execution in her character personally, it just wasn't great. But we are getting to Scream 7 now. And a real question is Kirby going to be in Scream 7? Right? So if this is a continuation to the story in which we've staying on the same timeline, then it would make sense to an extent to bring Kirby Reed back. What capacity? I don't know. Is she still an FBI agent? Another Ghostface attack? Guess what? She shows up. Is that going to kind of be her thing? Is that how you explain her in every movie going forward that she's in? Is like she's an FBI agent who tracks down Ghostface? The thing is that if she's not in the movies, then it's like, okay, well, is she off doing somewhere else? What's happening? Couldn't Sidney just call her and be like, hey, I could really use your help? Right? Like, how do you explain her not being in the movie? Right? She went and helped Sam and stuff. Like, wouldn't she go and help Sid? I don't know. You could, I guess, argue it or justify it either way. But there are rumors circulating. Again, take it with a grain of salt, that Kirby potentially may not be in the movie, that Hayden has not been extended any offers yet or anything, which isn't super surprising, right? Like, she's very likely, if she does get brought into this film, it's going to be like how it was last time, where it was kind of at the end. Are they even in the hiring actor process yet? I mean, Nev Campbell is one thing. But we haven't even heard about Gail Weathers or Courtney Cox, and she's somebody that signed on immediately for Scream 5 and 6. So, are they even really reaching out to people? That's a real question. But kind of the thing that I want to talk about and dive into is, of course, Kirby Reed and with Sidney Prescott. But what do you think? Let me know down in the comments. Do you want Kirby in this film? But moving on. If you're going to have this film center around Sidney Prescott, which it appears like it's going to be, right? It appears that they're going to have kind of the first half be about Sidney. The other half is going to kind of be about the new characters. Not like it's going to be split down the middle, but basically it's going to be kind of two different versions of the film, right? You have the Sidney aspect, and then you have the new character aspect. One, you can make an argument, if they're going to introduce new characters, you should probably leave Kirby out of it, right? Especially if you have Gail, because Gail and Sidney, kind of like like that tag team, right? You're good in that regard. But if you start adding a bunch of characters to that, like a Kirby, that, yes, fans are familiar with, yeah, fans kind of get the gist of her and her character and stuff, but still, you want to see more growth, more development. I don't want to see them make the film convoluted to where it's like you have 8 new characters and 2 or 3 new characters that you're using as like the pass the torch characters, and then you have Sidney, and then you have Gail, and now you're adding Kirby, and now it's just, I feel like you're going to get too many cooks in the kitchen, so to speak. Now, the other thing is like, what is Kirby's role and how is she involved, and how can you make it make sense? Right? Again, you have an easy sort of inherent, here you go, right? She's an FBI agent. She got tipped off on this Ghostface. Maybe Ghostface even is the one that tipped her off to get her there, so Ghostface kind of take everyone else out at once. You could do something along those lines. Getting her there, I don't think, is the hard part. Getting her there is relatively easy to explain for her. It's just like, what is the expansion of her story? And if she's just kind of hanging around like Scream 6, I felt like we didn't even really get to know this version of Kirby. It's just kind of like she's there, she's weird, and I get that they were trying to make it like Kirby was the killer, but did anyone really think that that was going to be the case? Now, you could argue, I guess, general audiences would maybe be thrown off by it, but like any of us Scream fans, we all knew like they're not making Kirby the killer, right? Like she's not going to be Ghostface. Um, but I just felt like you still could have grown and developed and told a bit of a Kirby story without and still kind of had the same execution with her character and maybe even made it a little more believable, right? Like kind of I just felt like the Easter egg, like not the Easter eggs, the breadcrumbs to like her and her reveal and all that stuff. Like I just felt were kind of lackluster. And then it's just kind of like, she's an FBI agent. She tracks Ghostface. She's handing around. Oh, now she's following them to the thing. Now, is she bad now? Oh, no. Like, now she's at the... It's just... I felt like she was just kind of there to just be there. It was just kind of like, hey, we don't have Sidney, so here's Kirby. There you go. And I've talked about this before, right? Like, even Gale in Scream 6, I felt was just like, in many ways, a glorified extra, right? Like, you know, she had a couple moments, but like, what did she do that was significant? I mean, even Sidney in Scream 5, like, what, like, I just feel like these writers have not done the best job of writing the legacy characters and integrating them into the overall story. Now, part of that is probably because they're not familiar with the characters, right? Like, you're taking somebody else's characters and translating them to a new film. But that's my point. Like, then why even bring these characters? Like, now I get Scream 7. They're kind of in a rock and a hard place. They almost have to either A, just start completely fresh, which I personally don't mind, but I get you don't want to run the risk of this being a major flop. Or you go with Sidney Prescott and you tell the final story to kind of get back the audience. Cool. All right. I get it. But to me, it's like they clearly don't know how they want to fit these characters in. Now, given that this is going to be a Sidney-centric film, my hope is that maybe they can write these characters, and if Kirby does return, they can write Kirby into the story better and, you know, kind of make it flow, because now you don't have you're not focusing on Sam and Tara and the core four and all that, right? So now you can focus on Sidney, Gale. If you want to introduce, not introduce, but bring back Kirby, now you can do that with Kirby, and then you have, like, you know, a handful of new characters, but, you know, like, say there's 5 or 6, you know, 3 to 4 are probably goners, and then you're going to have 1 or 2 that are going to survive, and then the other, like, whatever, 2 are going to be Ghostface. Like, to me, you may be able to flush it out better. I don't want them to just to have characters in it just to go, oh, look who's in the film. Right? Like, again, I don't need glorified cameos. I'd like expansion on the characters. If you can bring Kirby back and you can bring her into this film, and in doing so tell a great story that continues to grow, build, and expand her as a character and get us to know a little more about the Ghostface side of things and whatnot, then cool, I'm all for it. Bring her on. But if you can't, then just leave her out. Like, if it's one of those things where it's like, you know, we don't really know what to do with her, then fine. You don't have to bring her in. You don't. You can, it's okay to go do a film without having to bring back legacy characters in every film. So, to me, if you can tell a convincing Kirby story, cool, let's do it. If you can't, then fine. Keep it Sidney focused. Keep it Gale, right? But Gale too, I mean, please don't do what you did with Gale in Scream 6, where she was just kind of there. All right, I don't know. Part of me maybe I just have a bad taste in my mouth because I haven't been super impressed with the writing. I'm hoping with Kevin Williamson, things can kind of get back on track a little bit, hopefully. I mean, he's not writing, he's directing, but you got to imagine that he's going to have some say, some input. He's, I'm sure, going to have some direction outside of like directing the film, of course. But I really do want to see these characters that we, grew up with and that have been a huge part of the Scream franchise. And I just want to see them done justice, right? I just feel like they haven't done that yet. But anyway, I'll wrap it up there because, sorry, just kind of ranting, venting. It was just something I was thinking about. I was just like, they're going to bring Kirby back. Like, that's fine, but they really need to make sure that they do this right. They really need to have a proper approach. But do you feel the same way I do? Do you feel differently? However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments below. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, do you want Kirby in this film, or do you think, nah, keep her away? However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, love to hear it. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. Helps me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.